My article over the weekend was about Bob Collymore in Memoriam. Last week I attended my eldest daughter's graduation in Durham, a university that I had attended as well, but not with as much distinction as Aisha, who graduated with first-class honours and of whom I am so proud. As I sat in the more than 1,000-year-old Cathedral Church of Christ, Blessed Mary the Virgin, and St. Cuthbert of Durham, commonly known as Durham Cathedral, and home of the shrine of St. Cuthbert, it felt a little hallucinogenic. I wish my departed mother and my father-in-law, both of whom had adored Aisha, had been with me, and as I sat, my mind was also thinking of another friend, Robert Collymore, Esquire. Bob's mum always called him Robert. I had been with Bob and with the boys' club twice the preceding week, and on the second occasion, on the Saturday afternoon, he had turned to Bharath and said, "I want to be cremated. How do I go about it?" And Bharath referenced the Upanishads, and Bob said, "I've read the Upanishads," and I knew he had, because some years ago, he had read every religious source document, including the Quran, and was in the habit of asking me pointed questions about the Quran, about which I was singularly ill-qualified to answer, especially given that I was probably quaffing his best whiskey at the same time, to his chagrin, but about which he indulged me. I said this to the Financial Times. He was right on top of his business, finger on the pulse, but at the same time he had this unhurried ability to make you feel he had all the time in the world to hear what you had to say. He saw it was about empowering Kenyans to join the 21st century, about putting the ability to communicate, the ability to do business into their back pocket. The moments I savoured most were when Bob came back from a weekend in Seattle with Bill Gates, and I would say, "Bill Gates, huh?" And he would say, "Yes," and they wanted to hear what I had to say. And for a moment it was like we were little boys, him from Guyana and I from Mombasa, and my experience was of course vicarious, but those moments were the best. And you know, it all began many years ago, and in those days it was always about how Bob was filling some big shoes, and Bob would turn to Patrick and say, "What about that headline about shoes?" It was practically an everyday thing. And Patrick would say, "Let me speak to the Mzungu." Under Bob, Safaricom grew more than sixfold in market capitalization. It was a golden age for shareholders, and the returns he served up were amongst the top percentile worldwide. The markets emit the purest signal. It was a privilege to watch the captain, he was the captain of the boys' club, navigate this incredible journey. Today, Safaricom is valued at 3 times Airtel Africa. There is a Bob Collymore premium in that valuation. That's a fact. And he did it with empathy, panache, and a very droll wit. And because of his posture, it is easy to skip over the complexity around the navigation. The regulatory framework was oftentimes a minefield. He managed multiple stakeholders and always kept his foot on the accelerator. If there ever was a golden goose that laid golden eggs, the pivot to financial services was a big deal. However, most of all, Bob believed in the information century and in connecting every Kenyan to that information superhighway. He once said, "I spend my time thinking about the $1 a day Boda Boda offering." I condole with Bob's wife Wambui and his family, and in the spirit of his syncretism, will conclude with Kabir. Between the poles of the conscious and the unconscious, there has the mind made a swing. Thereon hang all beings and all worlds, and that swing never ceases its sway. Millions of beings are there, the sun and the moon in their courses are there, millions of ages pass and the swing goes on, all swing.